Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley. This is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here with Paige Lee. Welcome, Paige.
Hi, Becky. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I am so glad you're here. So, Paige is here today to bring us just these beautiful messages of really bridging the gap between grief and joy and coming into a lot of what we talk about here on this Feel Good Always podcast, which is that we can feel good in spite of wild, sad, a lot of suffering and a lot of tragic circumstances. Paige also has a son on the other side, like I have Kira on the other side. And so we're going to share all of that with you today. But for anyone that's new here listening, the Feel Good Always podcast was born out of really receiving connection from my daughter, Kira Bradley. She died in a fatal UTV accident, and this was soul crushing grief, and ego crushing is what I've been saying lately. And in that, I was really, my consciousness expanded, my connection to her, actually to Paige's son, Bryan. He was a huge part of that, which we're going to talk about that. Really to the souls on the other side, souls hear everything and everyone. And, that I just deeply listen, that we're bringing people here that are experiencing this really huge awakening that's happening here on the planet. And, to help others remember who are listening to move away the doubt and to just trust to help each other through this really great awakening. It's for people that are feeling this shift inside of themselves and collectively. And I'm so glad to have you here today, Paige, because you were such an integral part in my own healing from grief and also the awakening. And then side by side, we've been doing a lot of work together as we all are really ascending on earth. So, Paige, before I get started with talking to you and letting you share your story about all of the things you've done for so many years and what you're doing today, I would like to read a bio about you. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So Paige W. Lee is a spiritual teacher, Reiki Master, author, and retreat host dedicated to helping people move from pain of loss into the fullness of spiritual awakening. Her soul's purpose is to connect loss and life, guiding those through transformative transitions beyond grief toward joy and into the sacred journey of becoming fully alive, fully themselves, and fully rising. With a deep understanding of what it means to walk through life's darkest chapters, Paige has built a body of work rooted in compassion, soul-centering healing, and the unwavering belief that grief is not the end of your story. It is the doorway. Paige creates sacred spaces that meet people exactly where they are, holding them through the depths of loss and gently guiding them through the light on the other side. So, Paige, for anyone that's listening and has heard my story, my daughter Kira, she died. And I want to say that how I heard of you, Paige, you kind of started coming in all directions. Multiple people were mentioning you, and that's when I start paying attention. But one of the things why I wanted to get a hold of you, and this is right after Kira dies, maybe 6 months later, multiple people had mentioned you, but somebody was talking about how you had this joy about you that was almost like, how? Like that person didn't understand how you could be so happy because your child died and you just had emanated this complete joy. And for me, I was like, okay, I have to meet this woman because I wanted what you had, right? If they're talking about you like this, that's how I want people to talk about me because I want to feel good, even in the most tragic circumstances. And so
Yeah.
that's how we end up meeting. And you were a grief coach to me. And at the time you weren't even coaching. And I kind of got on a call with you and said, I think you're supposed to work with me. And there we did. And you helped me so much. You're just such an integral part. What I would love for you to do is share about your son, Bryan, who he was here on earth. And I know he's so much more expansive now and helped
Mm.
you on this journey.
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much. I have to say though, Becky, you helped me expand as well. And I don't know if you even know that. I may have told you, but when you came to me for coaching, and I was everything I said, you're like, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. And I was like, well, I don't know that I have much to offer you. And you said, yes, you do. I know you do. And so I said, okay. And that prompted me to create kind of a next level coaching program. And so that's what I did. And I have to say, I'll get back to Bryan, but that is kind of what launched me. That was like the trigger, I guess, of what launched me into the new work that I'm doing now. And then right after you did that, another gentleman who had been doing grief coaching with me he came to me and asked the same questions that you were asking. So I was like, okay, that's two people like you. If I hear it once, if I hear it twice, I pay attention. If I hear it three times, it's like act now, right? And so I created that kind of next level coaching program, which is what you went through. I'm not doing private coaching any longer, but I loved that you were a part of that in my journey, right? That we've really been able to help each other along the way, which is so fun. So thank you for that too, and for having me on today. My son, Bryan, who is very present all the time. It's been 18 years since he passed in September, which is unconscionable to me. I didn't think I would survive a week or a month. I mean, I remember in the days after his passing, staring in the mirror, sobbing, and just looking at myself and just saying out loud, I don't even know who this is. I can't fathom that this has happened. I don't like, is this even real? Like maybe I'm in a dream. And you just don't think you will survive it because we're brought completely down to our knees. And what happened is Bryan was in a getting his second degree at University of Southern California. He had completed an economics degree, and he was enrolled in the film school there. He was walking home from a bar one night with some friends and ended up, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Some might say soul planning had something to do with that. And he was murdered while he was walking home that night. And Bryan is my only living child. I do have two stepchildren. And so I'm very lucky and blessed to still have, them in our lives. And we have grandchildren through them. And so I do have that fullness of family still. But mostly I can say I still have that fullness because Bryan is so much a part of our lives. I mean, his pictures are still everywhere and we celebrate his birthday. I mourn privately his passing day, but we all celebrate him all the time in many ways. I talk about him openly. The kids talk about him openly. We all sense him and feel him in different ways. So that's the maybe that's one of the reasons why I've been able to carry joy in my heart from such an early day. But it didn't happen right away, right? It doesn't happen on day 2 or day 10 or day 30 of the journey. It takes time and a desire to want to find healing and a connection. So for me, what happened is 3 weeks after Bryan passed, I heard him out loud with my ears and I heard him call mom. And I literally jumped up and I'm like, oh my gosh, where are you? And that launched everything for me. And that was only 3 weeks after he passed. And I know you've got a similar story, right? With that connection with Kira right away. And so I feel very blessed that he was able to get through that veil through my grief, which was so extremely heavy as any parent who experiences the death of a child. I will tell you. And that launched me into every book I could find on the afterlife. And just one thing led to another. And every time I was ready for the next step on the journey or a new teacher on the journey, it would come and I would always say yes. And I think that's the secret, right? Is to say yes to the opportunities, to say yes to the teachings, to believe that the voice that you're hearing is not yours, that it is coming from somewhere else, and that you can trust that and believe in that. And so one thing led to another. And I know we're going to talk about mom-child reunions, so I'll pass that up for a moment. But I remember one day when I was having a particularly hard day and I'm like, I don't know if all of this is real. Is this really Bryan that I'm connecting with and communicating with? And I heard in my voice, I heard my spirit guides. It was almost like, oh my gosh, Paige, will you just choose to believe? And just like you heard the words "feel good always" from Kira, I heard those words "choose to believe," and that was the moment in time where I never looked back. I never once looked back. From that moment forward, I chose to believe that Bryan's voice was his, that everything was happening in divine order. I understood everything that I couldn't understand up until that point, and that if we just choose to believe that we're experiencing this for a reason, that we have a higher purpose, that our child still is a part of our lives, that we can still have a relationship with them, and then we can find joy. And I think that it's the pathway to healing. I can't imagine any other way.
Yeah, I love all of it. You have the book Choose to Believe that you wrote. That's the name of your book, and I'll link that down in the comments. It's like, I love this idea, I guess, of choosing to believe. It's not that we're believing in something that's not real. For me, it really is actually just looking at my beliefs before, my materialist beliefs that led me to believe that something like this was not possible, that when you hear the voice and you know that it is Bryan, or I knew that it was Kira, that I lived in a world before that would be like, wait, am I crazy? Am I losing it? And I think when your child dies, it's that ego crushing, it's that seeking, that the doubt that that voice is theirs is gone, and then it just, like you said, it just speeds up, and then it's more and it's more. And for me it
Yeah.
was so many things, and it was right away, because I want to say this too, and you've said this to me many times, and in our coaching that we did together, because what I knew I was supposed to connect with you. I didn't take no for an answer. I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
did.
no, I didn't, because I knew. And that's the thing, is Kira was saying, you're supposed to work with her, and you actually weren't taking people. And I said, well, really think we're supposed to. And you knew this too, and so we did, but you were teaching me about my vibration. I knew nothing about that, but that you can connect. There's a myth out there that if you're sad, that maybe they can't reach you. They can. It's just that maybe you won't hear it, because sadness it's all love, and that, just like you were able to hear early on, that does not mean that it wasn't soul crushing. Same thing for me. I could
Exactly.
feel connected to Kira immediately, but that does not mean that I wasn't in a horrible amount of pain. And thankfully today, for the most part, I feel pretty good. For someone whose
Yeah.
child has died, so
Yeah.
I love that
After
you
only
gave
how
me that
many
hope.
is it 3 years since Kira passed?
Yeah, it's been 2.5 years,
2.5,
and
yeah.
it was about 9 months when, for me, the level of connection that I had to her and really everything kind of skyrocketed, because I had been receiving a lot of connection, a lot of like, wait a second, what's going on here? Because my world was just massively like waking up in a dream. So that's
Yeah.
you, really. It is an integral part of my massive, like, skyrocketing awakening happens at 9 months. And that's when I go on mom child reunion, this is something that you do. And you could tell about that. We had Laura Morante, which I will also link to her podcast. She was on several podcasts ago. She's a channel. She's connected to Sally Baldwin, who is connected to Mom Child Reunion. And I think all of that's really important. I know a lot of people probably listening have been to Mom Child Reunion. And for me, it was a powerful, powerful catalyst. It was the place I needed to be to get what I needed, for more pieces of more confirmation of what was happening, plus the beautiful vibration when we all gather together.
Mhm.
And there are basically these expansive souls. I mean, whew, powerful stuff. So if you want to share that part of your
Yeah.
journey, I would love that.
It's such a sacred gathering of women. It is moms only at Mom Child Reunion. In 2010, this is where it began for me. In 2010, I was roaming the exhibit halls of the Sun Valley Wellness Festival, Sun Valley, Idaho, and I just kept hearing a voice say, "Go talk to that man." And I turned, and I'm like, there's this lonely looking booth at the end of a hallway, no banner that I saw, no fancy literature anywhere. And I said, "Ew, no, I don't want to go talk to him. I'm going to go get my fingerprints read. I'm going to go, get reflexology. I'm going to go look at the crystals." Three times, Spirit said, "Go talk to that man." And finally I said, okay, already. I'll go talk to that man. And so I walked down the aisle to the end of that aisle, and I face him and I say, "Hi, I'm Paige. Who are you? What do you do?" I saw no signs of who he was at all. And he said, "Well, hi, Paige. I'm Steve Baldwin." And I said, "Well, what do you do?" And he said, "Well, my wife, Sally, and I host a retreat for mothers whose children are in spirit at the Mom Child Reunion. And you had to apply to be able to attend." And they had well over 100 applications. It was a very lengthy application. And I was chosen of one of 7 moms in the nation, not just the country. And we gathered in Sun Valley, all expenses paid, due to a beautiful benefactor of the cause. And it was life changing. It was life changing. Sally Baldwin was a channel, a very gifted channel. And she had just made it her passion project, her compassion project, I should say, to help these moms whose children have passed away. And I'm telling you, there is no experience more bonding than, 7, 8, 9 moms in a room, all whose children have passed away. It changed my life. I left a changed person. I drove back to Boise, where I live, from Sun Valley, and my mind was just crazy with thoughts about all the things I could do and the work I wanted to do to be able to pay forward all that I learned at that retreat, because my whole journey has been about paying forward to others what I've learned along the way. That's who I am. I'm a teacher at heart, and that's what I love to do. I find something interesting and exciting and I pay it forward. And so that's what I love to do, is to make people's journey a little bit easier. Like Sally made mine so much easier. And so it took a long time. I think I always knew I would be the one to pick it up. Sally Baldwin herself passed away in 2012, I believe. She only had 3 of these events before she passed away from heart disease. And so when I was ready in 2019, I believe it was, I reached out to her husband, Steve, and I asked for permission to use the name. And he granted me that permission to use the name Mom Child Reunion. And we were off and running. I've had 7. I've got the 8th one coming up this year. But it is sold out. We sell out pretty quickly every year because we do have limited number of attendants. I only have 9 new moms coming. 2 years ago, I initiated a mentorship program. So we have prior year moms who have attended the retreat come and just help us hold space for these new moms. But what we do at Mom Child is teach the tools to learn to connect, because that is what was everything on my journey. That's what helped me move forward as quickly as I did, I guess I'll say, is because of the tools that I learned. So we teach things like pendulum. I mean, I wear a pendulum, so I always have it with me all the time. You have your pendulum, which is such a miracle story from Mom Child Reunion for you, how you got that pendulum. And I know you've shared that on this podcast before. So we teach pendulum. We have the most amazing goodie bags you'll ever find at a retreat. We do a lot of meditation. We do healing as a Reiki Master, and many of my students who come, and we do Reiki for the new moms. This year, we're adding a spiritual component piece to it, which I'm excited about, for one of the spiritual leaders in this community. So it's just a beautiful time in nature, always in nature, where we can get out and walk and be one with the land and just one with all that is. And the children gather and we pay tribute. And you mentioned Laura Morante. From, I think, the 2nd year forward that I've done this, Laura has always been a part of it. She has brought forward channelings from the mother's children and their higher selves. We typically also have a medium who provides a mediumship reading for the moms as well. And it's just an amazing experience. I mean, if somebody wants to like catapult forward on their journey, this is the type of event that can do that if you're open and ready to hear the information that we share. And so it was an honor to have you there. I'm so thrilled that it helped you on your journey. And I just love holding space for people, which is really what I do mostly, is create sacred space for people to be able to hold them in their grief and to help them, kind of gently guiding them toward the next step after the grief. Because I'll say the one thing that I hear people all the time say, I will always grieve. I will never stop grieving. I will never stop hurting. I am forever broken. And none of that is true unless you allow it to be true, right? But you get to choose, right? You get to choose the path forward. And my job is to be a guide for those who say yes to healing, to help them get to the other side of the pain, so that they can find joy again, so that they can find happiness again. And now you mentioned, the collective consciousness and what we're going through as humanity right now, to be able to help people expand into that, because conscious grieving is an important part of healing of this type of traumatic loss. Any traumatic loss is really going to require conscious grieving to help get through that. And it's really what we're doing as humanity right now, is kind of collective grieving. And the more of us that are able to help the others through it, the better off we all are. So we all have a role to play in what's happening on the planet right now.
Yeah, you just said so much good stuff. Because what I see, so all the mom child reunion, which, there's plenty of people listening to this podcast that don't have a child that has died. but the ones that do, it's amazing. And when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking what you offer at Mom Child Reunion, what you offered me. Yes, that's when I get the pendulum. I come home, it starts working the board. Actually, Kira lists out she started with Bryan. I said, "Who are you with?" She spelled out Bryan and then named
Yeah.
every kid that was there,
Yes.
and I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, she was telling me what was happening in other people's houses that day to prove to me that was her, because even though I was experiencing so much, there's still that materialist, that part of me that's like, is this real? Like, are you serious right now? I
Yeah.
can connect with her. She can. And so she had to prove it to me, which she doesn't need to do anymore. Like, I just trust. And it could be her on the board. It could be, or even just right here as we sit here, knowing what to say. It doesn't even need to come through a pendulum. But what I was thinking as you were saying that, one, I love that somebody funded that. And I'm totally
Mhm.
hearing, because we have the Becky Bradley Foundation, which helps humans in need. We didn't limit it. It mostly helps foster kids, but we also have causes that help humans in need. And something like this, I would love to fund something like this for
Oh, yeah.
parents, not only parents. So that's what I heard. So we'll see what
Okay,
comes of
that's
that.
beautiful. Yeah, we could work on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we could work on that. But you know what I think? I think it's so great for everything you do in Mom Child Reunion, but it's so necessary also, not only for people that are grieving any kind of loss. I
Yeah.
do believe it's nice as mothers to come together with other people that have lost child, because of course we feel as if, it's not the same as a parent. It's not the same. This is just the way I felt. It's not the same as if my husband died. I love him dearly, and I know that would be very hard,
Yeah.
but it's a kind of like anything but my child. And
Right.
so I think coming together with other people that understand that, but that what you offer at these retreats, not only just for grieving people, but everyone that's experiencing this awakening, because I have met many people through great suffering. They are experiencing this awakening and learning about meditation, Reiki,
Yeah.
automatic writing, which is something you taught me. And I
Yeah.
do most days now, which is asking a question. And the
Yeah.
question that I asked, I remember it was something about like, what is my role here? And then you played meditation music, and I wrote this all out.
Yes.
And when I look back at what I wrote, pretty much within like 4 or 5 months, I looked back and it was like talking about everything, like things I didn't know anything about, but like were revealed over the next 4 months. So it's like, oh, it's so
Isn't that
beautiful
so
for
great? Yeah,
it's amazing.
it's
And that there's just a
amazing.
lot more going on here. And I think retreats like this help really, when you're immersed in something like that with other people at the same vibration, because it's a
Yeah.
vibration.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, wow, if I could live my life like this all the time, I would actually maybe feel good.
Yeah.
And then I realized I can. I can. If this
I
is
can
possible
choose to.
here,
I can choose
yeah,
to,
I can
right?
choose to,
Mhm.
because you're
Yeah.
choosing to believe. And then all the people just keep finding me. And it's hard to hear when you're suffering that it's a choice. But I love and appreciate that you said that over and
Thank you.
over, and that you said that this isn't a lifelong thing. And when you would say that, I don't really grieve anymore. I remember you saying that at the retreat. And I understand that we all have feelings all of the time, but it's really questioning what we have been taught in our culture about grief, that it
Yes.
has to be these stages, and I think it helps us understand our experience, but it's pretty frightening when you're in this deep pain to think that it's never going away. And this brings us to what you're doing today, which is this new program, bridging the gap between grief to joy, which is everything that I am getting. My connection, Kira, is like feel good always, feel good always. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm a mom who lost a child, and my message to everybody is just feel good. And so you and I are both getting the same messages, which I know you had gotten this years ago and felt pushback and didn't feel like you could
I
really do
did.
this at that
I
time. So
did.
tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, I have had people on the journey, and I'm not going to say that I was like happy in the first couple of years, right? But I was on the journey and I was listening and I was learning and I was immersing myself into all things spiritual so that I could find healing, right? It was always about finding Bryan, even more so than finding healing, actually. It was all about finding Bryan. And I promised him when I heard his voice that day, I will find you. And I did, right? I did find him, and it didn't take that long.
You're
Oh,
launching a
yes.
program that's actually starting, and I'm going to link to this program. So,
Yeah.
anyone that is grieving
Yeah.
or experience loss, actually any kind, you're launching this program. And really, I do believe that when we surround ourselves with other people that are doing this work, it helps move into that,
Yes.
that
Absolutely.
big, that massive awakening, really, and joy. And that's what you're doing now. And so I know you have been feeling this, oh, everything is joyful and that we can do this, and maybe had pushback that you couldn't launch it like that years
Yeah.
ago.
But let
And
me
now's the time.
and now's the time. And I'll tell you a little bit of that story, like in the most recent couple of years. But so many years, the first website I ever had, that my best friend built and maintained for me. I knew nothing about how to manage a website. Now I do have help, but I do most of it myself. Anyhow, that's part of the growth journey too, is the technology involved. If you're going to teach and do all these things like you with your podcast and all these things, but that's been fun. And the other thing about embracing spirituality as a healing pathway is it really does make life interesting and something to look forward to, and almost a little bit of a distraction sometimes. We always say, don't bury your grief, feel it, express it always, whatever emotions arise. But there's nothing wrong with also at the same time having a little fun. And that helps you understand that you can still have fun and embrace joy. But years ago, with that first website that I had. I'm looking at something on my blind up there that's distracting me. It might be a ladybug, but I can't tell. Bryan sends me ladybugs. And so
Okay.
I'm just like,
I want to tell you that before you said that, my attention got called to the reflection behind you, which is your blinds.
oh, the reflection on the blinds. And that's what I'm seeing up
Yeah,
there.
well, this is what we're talking about here. So behind Paige right now is a
Yeah.
picture, and I can see the reflection. And literally 20 seconds before you said, I think there's a ladybug, my attention went to that,
Yeah.
which
That's
is
so
this
funny.
merge consciousness. This is what we're
Yes.
talking about. My
Yeah.
attention, without me saying anything, went there. And then you're
Yeah.
like, I think there's a ladybug.
I
And
think
so
there's a
that's just
ladybug.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That Kira and Bryan
And
are here,
that's,
really just that there's so much more happening. To me, it looks like a ladder of light,
yeah.
which
Oh,
for me is
interesting.
always a sign of ascension. We are
Exactly.
ascending on earth. This is a
Yeah.
ladder. So ladybug, I
Yeah.
love there's a ladybug. And I don't even know, this is how we get off because it's so fun. You were talking about how fun it.
I know. So, well, let me go back to, so I had put on the hero, right, the top section of your website, and I had put on there, something along the lines of the way to heal through grief is conscious grieving, grief to joy. People would be like, what are you talking about? How dare you? I mean, really, the feedback I got was, the pushback was, how dare you talk about joy? I have no joy. I'll never feel joy. I'll never be happy. And you can't fathom it when you're in the earliest stages of grief. Most of us. I mean, there are maybe some who can, but most of us cannot. But it's like I said a few minutes ago, it is possible on the journey. But I took it down because I had so much feedback on it. People would write on Facebook and write to me. I even had some people write to me personally. And it's like, kind of, how dare you say that? And I'm like, but it's possible. I'm living proof that it's possible. So I took it down, and fast forward, many years, because I've been doing this work for 16 years now, because I started just almost immediately after Bryan passed, because I heard his voice, because I was led to Sally Baldwin, because I was working with the local medium and taking spiritual classes and intuition and psychic development and things like that. So I was on this journey from 3 weeks after he passed, and I'm not going to say I've never walked away, because sometimes we take a break, right? We just need a break. And so we walk, and, we walk off the path slightly. And I remember my guide saying once, it's okay to step off the path, just always come back, because you have important work to do. And everybody listening to this has important work to do. It's not just you, and it's not just me. Like, every person has a reason why they came to the planet to live at this time, and a mission, right? Whether it's touching people one at a time, or whatever it is, right? So forward to 2 years ago. And I had a little bit of I had achieved a lot of success, a lot of followers in the work that I'm doing, a just amazing people, amazing moms, so many parents that I've had the honor to touch their lives and to have them touch my lives, because my best friends now are you and people like you in the community who I've had the pleasure to walk with on this journey. And they are my closest friends now. I can't imagine life without them. But anyhow, I went through this kind of dark night of my soul the last 2 years. It's been really intense, and I didn't understand that that's what it was until recently, until about January of this year. Almost 2 full years of this kind of dark night of the soul is my interpretation of that, where I had a business partnership breakup. I had two mom-child reunions in that time frame, which were great. But then I got breast cancer, and I was, living with that and the shock of that, and what does that mean? And I broke my wrist when I was traveling to speak at a conference in Washington D.C. That was probably the first incident that had happened. And anyhow, it was just kind of this onslaught of one thing after the other. And in the middle of all of that, I knew that my work was shifting. Knew it before I broke the wrist, which was the beginning of the events that occurred in that time frame. And I didn't know what it was. I couldn't hear what spirit was telling me and what they were guiding me to do. And so I just leaned in like I have always done in my grief journey. I leaned in. I allowed myself to just rest and do nothing, which is extremely difficult for me. I'm very high energy, very type A. And I allowed myself to just lay on the couch all day and to heal my body, numerous times over, right? With the different things that happened to me, heal my body. And I just got back to my practice of meditation and writing, whether it's automatic writing or soul writing or channeled writing, it's all just allowing yourself to receive and then to write down what you hear, or whatever the pen or the keyboard is writing for you. So anyhow, it wasn't until January this year. I'm going to say the 9/9 portal last fall was huge for me in releasing, because the whole 2 years, what I was able to finally look back and see was it was all about releasing all that no longer served me, because I had to do that, even though I had, I'm going to say, dealt with my grief, right? Even though I had dealt with my grief, I had dealt with my pain, I had done all the work. I wasn't grieving anymore. We have other situations in our life, my husband and I, that have brought on new grief. And it's like, how many times can I be thrown to my knees, down to the ground? How many times, and get back up? And the answer is as many times as I need to, right? As many times as it takes, because grief strips away that's not the real you. And I thought that when Bryan passed, that, I was like, I'm empty. I have nothing left. I felt like I would compare it to losing an arm or a leg, right? Like I'm always going to be walking through life without this limb that's making me whole, right? But it wasn't a body part that I'd lost. What I lost was all the things that I thought I should have or could have or would have, right? All of those things that are not who we really are. And while grief strips away everything that really was never us, what we find is that underneath all of that is our soul. And that has been the journey for me, this dark night of the awakening. More release, more release, more release, more forgiveness, more healing, more quiet, more solitude, to get down to who am I as soul? Because that's the gift. That's the gift in the journey, right? And understanding that I am still here. I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not the labels I used to put on myself. I'm not who I used to tell a story about when I was probably in my 30s, and I would have this image of the person I wanted to be. And she was beautiful, and she had gorgeous, like gray hair. She was, just flawless in every way, just so kind and so tender and so compassionate. And for some reason, I held this woman like a bubble, like a bubble in my consciousness. And I'm like, I want to be her. I want to be her. And somewhere along the line on this grief journey, that memory came back to me, and I realized I am her. I am her. I am her. And so the new work that you've just referenced, it's why I've told this story. The new work that you've just referenced is to help people understand that they already are her or him. We just have to find them, right? We have to dig beneath the layers of the grief. Like one of the things that we talk about in the program, it's called bridging from grief to joy. And one of the things we look at is our grief symptom is saying this or is acting out in us this way. But what is the soul yearning underneath? Because whenever the symptom, the grief speaking is the symptom and the soul yearning is the action item, right? Like what is the symptom calling forward and what is it that we want to, what is it that our soul is trying to tell us? And so we get really deep. It's work I haven't done before. It's kind of a it's not grief 101. What we do is we take people from the doorway. So you've done all the grief work, you've seen the counseling, you've done the EMDR, whatever, you've gone to the retreats and you're at the doorway and you get to choose. Am I going to cross, right? Am I going to enter the doorway and cross into an expanded consciousness and a new way of living and being with my loved ones by my side? Or am I going to choose to stay in the darkness and in the grief? And it is a choice, right? Everybody gets to choose. So if they walk through the doorway and say yes, then I take them over the crossing of the bridge. And then we get to that awakening stage, which is I'm having a thought and it's not my own. Or I knew you were just going to say something about a ladybug or whatever. Those soul speaks, those moments when our soul speaks to us. And then we move into becoming. And it's a 5-week program. Thank you for asking me about it. Early bird closes at midnight on April 14th. And so I think that's the day you air this program. And so if people see this that day, or actually if anybody sees this podcast and wants to sign up, just let me know that you heard about it on Becky's podcast and we'll honor the early bird price for you. The classes start April 29th and it runs for 5 weeks. So I'm excited about it because it's the new work. It's everything that spirit, when I started hearing spirit again, after I came out of this dark night of the soul, beginning in January and then in February with the emergence of the fire horse. And it was just everything erupted and I could hear spirit again and I'm seeing the direction. I can see it so clearly. But I told that whole story because I think it's interesting that even like years on the journey, right? Helping others for 15, 16 of those years. And still I had so much more to release, stuff I didn't even know. I can't tell you, things came up that were from 30 years ago that I had to release. One of them landed me in an emergency room. And it's just been crazy. I can't even tell you. It's been intense and it's been crazy. And I've been quiet. And so now I'm back and I'm awake again and I'm alive again. I'm back to my normal self, but it's been a journey. And not that everybody has to go through that, Becky, but I think many of us are going through a similar journey right now or have been over the last few years.
It's kind of frustrating when you have done all this work and then it just spirals and you're like, wow, we're here again. But
Yeah.
it's this massive, I
Yeah.
love what you called it, the dark night of the awakening.
Yeah.
Wow. I have not heard that, but I do want to say a few things. I come into your life right then, right when you broke your wrist is when I
Oh,
come in. Yes. Because our first meeting, you had literally just broke your wrist. I don't believe any
okay.
of this is coincidence. And you meet somebody who is me, because my daughter had just died, but I did not need the work of clearing of, it's not to say that I don't have work to do. I came into this with, you know, over a decade of doing a lot of deep work on myself, meditation, all kinds of stuff so that I could, I wasn't blaming other people. I wasn't angry. I didn't have to do all of that. And so I
Right.
was like,
Yes.
I just need to know, like, I needed you to teach me, show me what was possible. And because I believed it was possible, and then to teach me all of these things. Plus, I knew we were supposed to meet, not just for you to help me, but me to help you. Because what I
Yeah.
believe, and you were talking about the
Yeah.
collective, right? And that we are actually, as parents of children who have died, we can actually, instead of pitying us, be leaders in this great awakening. Anybody, you don't have to have a child that has died, but someone who has experienced great suffering and
Yes.
great awakening through the
Yes.
process can be leaders I have so many chills right now, leaders as we watch the collective, we watch humanity who is collectively grieving
Yes.
because
Yes.
everyone is
Yes.
experiencing it. So you were
Yes.
being asked to play a role in this life, like we all have a role that went
Yeah.
beyond just helping mothers that have children who have died, which I think is huge because you have this beautiful container of all of these women who are now side by side with you. and that we can all do it together, and you can still help them. But this is bigger than just helping people that have experienced great loss. Your role is much bigger. I knew that immediately, but you had to like burn away some other things. And I just want to say, as
Yeah.
somebody who witnessed you in the last couple of years, you did get quiet, but you also still were very much in that spiritual space as I watched you process everything and when we
Yeah.
would talk about things.
Yeah.
But I do think I mean, that's what we do. Doesn't mean that we're okay and that it's not hard and then we don't need to lay on the couch, and experience, when everything seems to be falling apart again.
Yeah.
um that's part of it, and then to see what comes out of it, which is you really having to listen to this message of, which is the same message I'm getting, that it is possible for us to have peace. Kira's constantly like, it is your divine right. Stop believing what you've been told, which is that you
Yeah.
need to stay in misery,
Yeah.
and that we
Exactly.
are not, that we have to wait until we die to be reunited. Like, I know many people listening to this podcast know that that's not true, but my connection, to Kira and actually many kids on the other side who are expansive souls, I just don't think of them as kids, is, like I
Yeah.
didn't have to wait because I feel all of that now, that when I have a thought, like, I can't explain how that works, but
I know. Yeah.
it's beautiful energy and the energy is rising. And so to be able to do this, so whoever is joining in this group with you, it's not only about this expansion as you walk through the doorway, it is about the people
Yeah.
that you're meeting. When I
Yeah.
get the thought, I'm supposed to talk to Paige, 2.5 years ago, you don't know where that's taking you. You just
Yeah.
trust that I'm hearing that this is what I'm supposed to do. And it could be you meet this person. I met Samia on your
That's right.
retreat, and
Hmm.
her daughter Mesa is a huge guide for me. Her daughter, she
It's
died by
beautiful.
suicide a month before Kira, and Mesa is the most powerful, to me, guide. And Kira and her work together all the time. And Samia, thank God, like, you just never know. I'm so grateful for Samia because we're always getting the same downloads, which was helpful to teach us both that there's a lot more happening here.
Yeah, exactly. And Mesa sends Samia ladybugs too. So we have the
Yeah.
ladybug in common too as well. I think of it oftentimes as it's always that question of who am I now, right? I've said it so many times, like who am I now? And I've written several blog posts about it, that who am I now? And the thing is, we're constantly shifting. You and I were talking before we started the podcast today. We're constantly shifting into who we are next, right? We get to decide and move forward and expand in our own journey, in our own skin, always with our soul guiding us. And when we open ourselves up to that guidance and just say yes and follow the signs and follow the prompts and follow the guidance that we know is real, right? That we're not making that up. And then everything opens up. This is the greatest work that I will ever do, the work I'm getting ready to do. And that's why I'm so excited about it and so passionate about it. I've asked Spirit for years to like, tell me what's next, show me what's next. Cause I think you get a little stagnant doing the same work for 15 years, And even though I always taught new tools, it's like, that there's something next. And it wasn't time to know. It wasn't time. But once everything started escalating with humanity, and then everybody's being asked to step up, and there's no tiptoeing around it. You've got to go all in. And that's what happened to me. I just went all in. Everything opened up, everything came through, and I'm all in. And so I just created all of these things. I have the bridging course, coming up, and I'll repeat that in the fall. And that's kind of the foundation of the new work. So I'll encourage people to like start there. We'll probably put it on as a self-paced course eventually. I have my Higher Ground immersive retreat experience in Virginia Beach in October at the Edgar Casey ARE, which is so exciting. It's not an Edgar Casey sponsored event, but it's myself and Mary Louise Chavon, who you also know, aka Ahana, from the Mom Child reunions, and it's going to be phenomenal. So we're also sold out on that, but any of your
Oh,
listeners
you're
who
sold
want to
out. I
come.
was going to go.
Oh yeah, well, we can always make room for a few more, I've told people. So, but we did sell
Okay.
out,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So you're describing another thing that you're doing, and it's with Mary Louise. And
Yeah.
so, Mary Louise was somebody that she created the board that I use,
Yes.
and I worked I'm going to have Mary Louise on this podcast. I
And
just wait till they tell me when.
you were asking me something, and I said, "I think you need to work with Mary Louise," and so I hooked you guys
Yes.
up afterward because I
Yeah.
knew that you were asking questions that I couldn't answer, and I knew that she was your next step, and so you did, right?
Yeah, and the
Reach out to
what
her.
you're talking about doing there, I know that the work that you, Mary Louise, and you will bring through at the Edgar Casey Institute is going to be amazing. I love that
Mhm.
because for me, I don't need to talk. I'm not in a space that I need to talk about the grief and all of that
Yeah.
unless I'm leading the conversation. But it's also about all of the people that are going to be there.
We're not even talking about grief at that event. That really is a next level. What happened is the mentor moms, right? The mom child reunion, and some of my Connecticut moms that were a different retreat kept saying, "What's next? What's next? Like, what's next? What can we do next?" And so I created Higher Ground as a way for those people, for us to walk that next step together, which is what I love about it. But there are people coming who have not attended one of the retreats. And so it's open to anybody. We will make space if people are interested. They just need to reach out to me and let me know. But it's not grief. We don't even talk about grief other than we are doing a very sacred past life release ceremony that we're going to be doing a lot of movement and a lot of, it's just going to be amazing. I don't even have the words right now. It's going to be different than anything I've ever done. And I'm so excited. When I asked Mary Louise if it were possible to do it together, she said yes in a heartbeat. And so I couldn't be more honored than to have her do this with me, as I feel about Laura too. And working with the both of them over the last however long it's been, 8 years on Mom Child Reunion. And Laura, even before that, because back in my earliest courses that I had run, and I did a series called Soul Connections, Laura would come in on the last session and do channeled readings for people. So she's been a part of my world for such a long time. And we're all connected to Sally. That's the thread, right? Sally is the thread that holds us all together. And I'm so grateful to Sally Baldwin. She changed my world. And she's still leading us from the other side, just like the kids do.
Yeah, and she changed my world,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
that ripple effect that for when
Yes.
people that are listening,
Yeah.
it's like you just don't know. I never met Sally. That does on Earth. That doesn't matter because the ripple effect through you, it's like it starts with a one-on-one and then it ripples out. And so
Yeah.
you have this work that you're doing. Obviously, you do the Mom Child Reunion, you have the Higher Ground Retreat, you have the Bridging 5-week course, and so much more. So I think that's coming, right? And
Yeah.
I believe it's time. This is time. And when we talked about this, I've been trying to get you on the podcast. We've been going back and forth. And,
I know, from the
honestly,
beginning.
just yeah, and you're traveling all over the world just like I do, and so trying to get it nailed down to a time, but I
Yeah.
think it's so important because your message, bridging this grief to joy, I feel like for
Yeah.
my job here is to bring all of these people and opportunities to my listeners, all these people that are leading the Great Awakening,
Yes.
and that I can't do it all individually. I can't lead every retreat and lead every program. What I'm doing is the podcast, and I've been doing a lot of like breath work, and I'm doing retreats too. So we all have to work together for
Yes.
that highest good, which
Yes.
is helping everyone walk through this beautiful great awakening that can feel really intense. And that
Yes.
when you find other people that are on the journey, it accelerates the journey because we all stop the doubt
Yeah.
and move more into that belief. And then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, this is everything. This is my
Yeah.
life
I mean,
completely.
having that tribe of people to share with, like, "Oh my gosh, I just experienced this," or, what are you learning? Just that tribe of people to walk with on the journey is really, really important. And I mean, almost every mom-child reunion, really going back to the first one that I can think of, some, if not all of the women that gathered became a tribe. And I've got women coming to Virginia Beach who were together. They met each other at, the first Stanley retreat I ever did in Stanley, Idaho, the second mom-child reunion. And they still travel together to retreats,
Yeah.
conferences, things like that. So it really is a tribe because the right group always gathers. Always. It's always the right group. I don't even worry anymore. I'm like, it's just going to be great. It's going to be great. And it always is. And I know that that'll be true with the new retreat as well. So a lot of the people know each other. A lot of them don't. None of that matters. We're all going to be new soul sisters. So far, we don't have any men signed up, and men are welcome. And Yeah, it's going to be a great experience. On Facebook, I have the Sacred or Becoming Sacred Hearts Rising, which is my old Transcending Grief group that I'm kind of reshifting. My goal for that group is to be where the conversation continues in between the retreats and in between the courses. I wanted to keep it a free platform to do that. To encourage conversation, just whatever, like any of my writings that I might want to put out there. And I haven't moved it yet off that Facebook platform. It's currently there, but people are welcome to join there as well. If they just want to see kind of more about what I do or who I am, they can find me there for free.
Yeah, I love that. I'm part of that group and you share so much over there and that all of these people, coming together, that part is just really beautiful
I know.
that we find each other no matter what. I love that you have modeled for me surrendering to just knowing and trusting that the right people will come. And that the other thing I just want to say that I'm hearing is, and what you watch me do, that all the people that are already listening and follow Paige, and I know, all of you, that we have to start saying this stuff out loud to everyone. That this is not
Yes.
just meant for those that believe like us. This is meant for
Mhm.
everyone. So, I mean, listen to yourself. I always say that too. But the constant message I say is to share the truth of my experience everywhere I go. Whether or not people think I'm crazy is not any of my business. And because there is nothing that has ever been more true than this experience. And so that we are in a time in history where we are leading this great awakening. We are standing in the power and the truth of our experience and we are sharing it. That's what you've done and that's what I'm doing. And that I encourage anybody, even if people don't believe you and they haven't experienced it, that does not mean that it is not real or that it can't be shared. So it's like, praying
Yeah.
every day to remove the ego so that we say the thing that needs to be said. Because as
Yes.
what you find is many people are having these experiences quietly.
Yes.
I share a lot publicly and people will message me that have been quietly, they don't even want to like what I'm
Yeah.
putting out there because it might be too woo woo, but they're quietly listening. So I just encourage anyone that's listening, even if it's a one-on-one conversation at your kid's soccer game, I don't know, but that we don't need to hide. We don't need to hide our experience, that we're done with that because it's happening. And
Yes.
might as well later, the other people will catch up and then who cares if they think we're crazy? They'll catch up. So, and we've
Right.
watched that. It's just massively happening.
The year of the fire horse too. It's like there is no
Okay.
more. There is no more being quiet. There is no more hiding, in the closet. We're out of the closet. And it's hard, right? Like my husband, his businesses, there's a lot of people on my Facebook feed who know him and they don't understand the work I do, but you can't care about that anymore. And if they don't understand, maybe we'll plant a seed, right? Maybe they'll plant a seed.
Yes.
And it's not for me to judge. It was really funny when sometimes when something happens, something traumatic, and you think, oh my gosh, nobody's going to understand. No, people are going to think I'm crazy. It's always the ones who I think are going to be the worst, at that turn out to be my biggest allies in that moment. And so we really can't judge. You just never know. You just never know who needs to hear
You,
what you have to say. And you have
yeah.
to keep saying it. And like you said, say it loudly and say it clearly and keep saying it because everybody does have a
Yeah.
role right now for sure.
But I just want to say my husband also owns his own business and I literally
Yeah.
sometimes will like invite him to collaborate on a reel or a post all about this stuff. Like you said, you just never know. And like I feel
Yeah.
like our child died. It's like that ego of what you think about us. I don't care. And he doesn't
Yeah.
either. But he has a swimming pool business and sometimes it'll be a reel about signs and connections. And then like there's people, one of his subs
That's
couldn't stop
awesome.
listening to the podcast. And like, we
Yeah.
just don't know who it's going to reach. And so we have to release any other feelings about other people that might think we're crazy. And, nothing like your child dying to remove that ego.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like I could listen to Kira or my guides way more and not worry about it.
Agreed.
I appreciate you fiercely doing what you have done because I needed you. I needed to find you and you are out in the open and because you did that, I could find you. So people will find you and by being, even if it's
Yes.
not, I'm not saying social media or podcast or writing, you'll know,
Yes.
what you need to say and to who.
Exactly. Exactly.
So thank you. You've shared all of
Yeah.
your beautiful work that you have, and I'm going to share
Thank
all of
you.
that down below. But as we end this podcast and our time together, I would like to
Yeah.
just ask two questions. One question is if you could share with anybody, ways to find peace and awakening, any simple things that you do that could help. I always ask for just like a couple pieces of advice for people. And then lastly, what feel good always means to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I have to say, meditation has been the number one tool that I have turned to for peace and awakening and connection. Number one tool. And so I encourage people, even if they take 5 minutes to just sit and be silent with their own thoughts, right? And there's so many things that I could say about how to quiet the monkey mind and using mantra and all of the different ways to be able to start a meditative practice. But whatever it is, whatever way you want to do that, to just start, to just do that, because it's really, really important to learn how to be still so that we can hear our own soul, our higher self, our guides, our loved ones in spirit, our higher power, whoever that it is that you want to hear and communicate with. But I think in these days, right now, most importantly, the soul, to be able to allow the soul to guide us in a deeper, more meaningful way than we've ever allowed for that before. So meditation and then being in nature. I love being outdoors, fresh air, being in the trees is everything to me. And that's where I hear Bryan, and that's where I hear my God and my spirit guides the most clearly. So those would be the two things that I would do for that. And then really to trust that you're on trust that you're right where you're supposed to be all the time. I am right where I'm supposed to be right here right now in this moment. It was never the right moment for me to be on this podcast until today. Today was the right moment, and Becky and I knew that. I wasn't offended that I wasn't the first one on. It wasn't time, right? We totally understood that. And today was the day. And so trusting that everything is for a reason and that you're right where you're supposed to be. And then did you ask me about how do I feel good always? Was that your second
Yeah,
question?
or just what it means to you. How do you feel good always? Well, you kind of described some ways that just now that help you feel
Yeah.
good, which is the
It's
meditation and the
this.
trusting.
Yeah, exactly. And always like one foot in front of the other. For me, the more I can learn to expand on the journey is what brings me joy and happiness these days. And understanding, like having my tribe of people and walking with them on the journey and having that common goal and knowing that there's a reason and a purpose behind it all. And so working toward that is really important for me. Whatever it is, I don't need to know the outcome. I don't need to know the what, when, how, why, but just trusting that I'm a part of that. That I'm not just a little tiny speck of dust in this big universe of consciousness, right? I mean, I am just that little speck, but I have meaning and I have purpose. If I were to end with anything, it would be grief is a doorway. It's an initiation. It's a way to open up to all that you are, like we started with this podcast today, to open ourselves up to all that we are before the traumatic event happened in your life, right? Whether that was the loss of job, loss of career, loss of spouse, loss of child, loss of pet, loss of home. There's so many different types of grief. And it's a doorway, it's an initiation into the who am I now? And so that's the gift. If there were a gift on the journey, it would be you get to choose who am I now? You get to choose, am I going to go through the doorway and over the bridge to healing and connection? Because healing is, it's okay to heal. It's okay to heal. It's okay to find joy in spite of what you've been told to believe. Yeah, about that. Yeah.
And it goes beyond healing
Yeah.
because you can be
Yes.
healed and then just continue to expand and help others,
Ex-
right?
yes,
It's
exactly.
all those
Yeah.
beautiful things.
All
And
that.
yeah, thank you so much for everything that you've shared here,
Oh,
for the work
thank
that you
you.
do, for envisioning that woman that you saw, that woman that you actually realized that you have become, and that
Yeah.
now you're showing other people. It's like, who do you see yourself as? It's really that person that
Yeah.
you see, that you think is somebody else, but it's really you.
Yeah.
That you're just walking towards it. That
Yeah.
future you is bringing you. And thank you, Paige, for helping people see that in themselves, helping them find the truth of who they are. And it is possible. It is possible. And I just am so grateful to you for showing people that it is possible. And I know many people that are listening just they believe in that truth. So thank you so much. Yes. And thank you, Bryan. I love you. I love you all. And thank you for listening. And tune in next time. Bye.